serious?
It has been a wild 3 weeks, that has been for sure. I have been following the conflict closely, sifting through a deluge of misinformation, internet shit spewing, and actual propaganda. I was going to do a video on the saints of Ukraine, from the javelin to the in-law and stinger, hell maybe even the Spanish AT weapons making their heyday. But alas, there's not much to really cover with these items. Let's do the quick rundown before I get on with the lesson of the day. For those who don't understand what a javelin does, when it fires, it climbs into the air before plummeting back down onto the target like a Michael B. Jordan slam dunk and yeets the thing to fucking oblivion. Russian-made copium cages for their tanks do little to actually stop the javelin from going yeet and sending the thing to another plane of existence, contrary to what Russian military doctrine states. That is, if they don't drive the thing off a fucking bridge. The in-law on the other hand is a direct-fire AT weapon that too, just blows whatever it aims at to the four winds. That is, if the Ukrainian operators understand the thing has a 20-meter arming range, and that if you shoot it any closer the thing won't do shit. Although, it gave us a daily dose of pretty good memes involving white in-law man walking amongst a burning pile of wreckage the Russians were so kind to give Ukraine for target practice it seems. And honestly, need I say more on the Stinger? That fucker proved its worth when it gave Soviet helicopters early Christmas gifts left, right, and center back in the 80s when those fuckheads in the Northern Alliance were on our side and not selling their guns for opioids whilst the Taliban manhandled the sober retards left behind. Alas, that brings us to the lesson we are to be taught today. In the name of the Father, the Cope, and the Holy Russia seemingly doesn't know how to fight a fucking war. In fact, they know less about fighting wars than HOI-4 players it seems, because at least HOI-4 players understand what a fucking frontline is. I am sure we all see various maps showing the vastness of territory captured by Russia, but realistically, the Russians have no actual front line. They hold roads and cities, and then they wonder why the Ukrainians pull encirclements on them like it's easy mode or some shit. Totally not, because they rely solely on those roads being left uncontested and not littered with landmines or ambushers waiting with a fuck ton of ordnance. Of course, you have your usual Russian cope and seethe regarding the war blowing up in their face just like most wars Russia fights, and to this I say,
You're so powerful you are. Why leave?
My lord! Our men are running from the battlefield! Shameful display!
You serious? Pay for what, standing there? The planetarium tomorrow night, 8 o'clock.
But our high-tech TOS-1 Buradinos. Well yeah, one got stuck in the mud, loaded up and filled with fuel and captured with a whole supply convoy for it, whilst the other, the 72nd Cossacks, nuked with a fucking RPG. There is a whole list of things I can rant on about the Russians fucking up with, but before I go back to the glorious supply lines, mutinies and routes going on, let's address the electronic warfare container Ukraine captured from Russia, a piece that is worth $74 million, no small feat, and clearly, a very, very important weapon now given for free to NATO by Ukraine. This thing, for those zoomers out there who think anything with a gun equals superweapon, listen here, this thing, had they fucking used it right, is a terrifying game changer, and not an easy to come by weapon which could have fucked a good amount of nearby electronics in use by the ATO. Now on top of that, cope and seeth comes towards Russian supply and performance, and my oh my, you could open a museum off all the shit being captured by the Ukrainians from Russian corpses now, Mosin Dragoons, Mosin 1930s. A fucking modern-day Tachanka with an original PM 1910. For the World War I nerd within all of us, this is the shit, if it was the fucking interwar era. This will be an educated guess here, but given the USSR made over 100 million AK series guns between the 60s and 70s, I am going to say that when the Soviet Union fell to make up for their debts, the USSR sold most of their actually modern guns before taking those fat L's in Chechnya in the 90s and early 2000s. So, when this war came about, and they realized guns can be damaged outside combat, they went to their armories to find almost no AKs left for their contract enlisted men, and instead just a fuckton of the worst rifles to come out of the USSR. Hell, even the BMD series is garbage. By multiple testimonies of Soviet VDV crews, they stated 5mm ammo from AK-74s could punch a fist-sized hole through the hull because it was shittily baked aluminum armor, and we all know the Soviets knew how to make top-quality armor now, don't we? So it begs the question, what changed that we see all these flaws now? Nothing, the Russians militarily have always been shit, only we as a society pick and choose when they're terrifying. But we won against Germany in 1945. True, but only with American support and the Western allies getting half the Axis off their backs, and you still got reamed because your officers and leaders were brain dead. We notice a grim trend of the Russian military lacking morale and discipline since even the Napoleonic days, when men were either scared shitless because their officers sent them to their deaths, or because they were afraid of their officers. Hell, Russian troops in the Crimean War exhibited this too. And if you want further insult to injury, the Russians considered Italian officers in the First World War to be generous and kind, Italian officers, who were known for torturing their men and killing them left, right and center to satisfy their bloated egos. Hell, you know it's bad when Soviet soldiers in 1939 defect to Japan during the border clashes because they think the Japanese treat prisoners better than the Soviet officers treat their men, and this trend continued into Chechnya in the 90s, when Russian troops willingly surrendered to people who were known to take their heads off. So it comes as no surprise now that we are getting legitimate mutinies and mass surrenders with the spicy add-on of routing from the Russian forces. They are being sent into a 24-hour meat grinder with shit gear, overhyped equipment and virtually no support or frontline, whilst attacking an enemy which has spent the past 30 years preparing just for this moment. And then people act surprised Russian troops run their officers over with tanks and IFVs and kill them on purpose or throw them out of trucks to be captured whilst they flee, not like those Russian soldiers want to live or anything. It also doesn't help Russian officers are dropping like goddamn flies, because Ukrainian recon teams are putting that Canadian independent scout team training into good use. Some extra spice on top, Russian troops are now becoming more aware of the inert flaws going on, like the copium cages. They are now realizing that those cages are so shoddily constructed the crews have basically nominated themselves to be the living lobsters tossed into the boiling pot. And another detail, which I'm sure you have all heard of, is the convoys, which because they have again no front line, the Ukrainians keep ambushing over and causing deep-seated logistical issues it has left the Russians with. You guessed it.
Okay, that's not supposed to.
I know what's wrong with it. Ain't got no gas in it.
Motherfucking target practice. The rampant disregard of fighting a proper war is the biggest killer going on right now. Not all the fancy technology or spirit of Ukraine, no. It's the fact Russian high command seemingly think the year is 1914 and massive force tactics is how one wins. Newsflash, they don't. It's why we stopped doing it, Jesus fucking Christ. And now, with Chernobyl abandoned and Hostomel back in Ukrainian hands, as well as the Russians in full retreat in the north, pushed back to the border near Sumy and being encircled east of Kiev, this war may be over sooner than we could have imagined, and unfortunately for the coping and seething Russians still out there, I am sorry for you guys, this ain't going good for you. I wish you could see that and value your soldiers' lives for a change. At this point, it's the least you can do now.
What you want, cause a pirate is free. You are a pirate. Your heart fitted indeed. Being a pirate is a right to lead. Do what you want, cause a pirate is free. You are a pirate. You are a pirate. We got us a map to lead us to a hidden box that's all locked up with locks and buried deep away. We'll dig up the box. We know it's full of precious booty. Bust open the locks, and then we'll say hooray! You want us a pirate that's free. You are a pirate. Are ahoy in the blast. Ticket fast. Hang the black flag at the end of the mast. You are a pirate. We're sailing away. Adventure waits on every shore. We set sail and explore. And Ren and Jim all day. We float on our boat until it's time to drop the anchor. Then hang up our coats until we sail again. Being a pirate is a red with me. Do what you want, cause a pirate is free. You are a pirate. Your heart, wind at your back, lads, wherever you go. Blue sky above and blue ocean below. You are a pirate. You are a pirate.
I'm driving too far. I'd like to change my point of view. I feel so lonely, I'm waiting for you, but nothing ever happens. And I wonder how, I wonder why. Yesterday you told me about the blue, blue sky.